Carolina Panthers, one of the first things they did, signed Christian McCaffrey, who we just heard from, to that long-term deal. But Greg Olsen is out. He's in Seattle. Cam Newton, the quarterback, the #1 pick in 2011. He's looking for a job. It is a new Carolina Panthers team, and where are they going? The pick is in 7th overall. Let's find out from Commissioner Roger Goodell.
Let's go, guys. Come on, Panther fans. With the 7th pick in the 2020 NFL Draft, the Carolina Panthers select Derek Brown, defensive tackle, Auburn.
Well, there you see Derek Brown. His teammates called him Baby Barack. One of his teammates, Marlon Davidson, referred to him as Channel 5 reporting live because he knew something about everything. He is exactly who you want your player to be, both on and off the field. He has political aspirations. He actually wants to be a lobbyist. That's why he called Baby Barack. His father, James, served in the Army and the National Guard and is now working with the local police department. And he said, "I'm a man who starts what he finishes," and that's why he came back for his senior year. Now we recognize Auburn defensive tackle Derek Brown's connection to our armed forces in the Salute to Service moment presented by USAA. For Derek, mediocrity was just not acceptable. His father, James, instilled a strong work ethic in his life. James served in the U.S. Army from 92 to 96. He was stationed overseas in Italy with the 3rd 325th Parachute Infantry Regime. James also served in the U.S. Army National Guard from 96 to 2000s. And Derek's lifelong friend, Ashton Barnes, was a running back at Air Force. He says Derek always wanted to be involved and help make other people's lives better. Mel, he certainly had an impact on everybody he played with and went to school with at Auburn. He was the president of the Student Athlete Advisory Committee. What are we getting on the field from Baby Barack?
Well, he went back for his senior year to get better technically, and I think you look at Isaiah Simmons, outside linebacker, Clemson, was probably tempting, but Derek Brown, consistent production gave him the edge over Javon Kinlaw. South Carolina is the first defensive tackle off the board. How did he do against the big games, against the top-level opponents? Texas A&M, I was impressed. Florida, Alabama, he had 7 tackles, 3.5 tackles for loss against the quality opponents. LSU, he's 7 tackles, 2 for loss. That's the difference in Derek Brown over Javon Kinlaw, in my opinion. DJ, was the consistency week in and week out.
Yeah, Mel, to me, when I watched him, the thing that jumped out to me, I thought he played with tremendous effort in every game that I watched. I saw him pursuing plays all the way across the field. He can really reset the line of scrimmage with his power. And I was fascinated to see what Matt Rule would do with this decision. His first pick, would he go Isaiah Simmons to get some speed and athleticism at the second level? He decided to go with a defensive lineman who can generate some of that interior pocket push inside the division where you're going to have going up against Tom Brady, Drew Brees, and Matt Ryan. So fascinating choice there. I love Derek Brown, Boog.
Yeah, DJ, I love him too. You know, K1 Short was hurt last year. Gerald McCoy is now gone. You need that guy inside to push the pocket. They drafted Brian Burns from Florida State, who's going to turn the corner. Derek Brown is a perfect fit of a guy that can control the middle of the field, push the pocket, and he plays sideline to sideline just the way I like him, Lewis.
Yeah, look, he is a high-effort player for such a big man. Look, him and Javon Kinlaw are both in that mold. Look, when you think about the Carolina Panthers, the fact that they lost Gerald McCoy, no Vernon Butler, they need some beef in the interior. And look, there's an argument made for inside players over outside players when you're talking about pass rushers, since they have the shortest distance to go to the quarterback, and quarterbacks hate pressure in their face. There's no question that they need edge rush to go with Brian Burns as well, but there's no one worth drafting this high that could truly be a 4-3, put your hand on the ground, rush the passer. So, look,
Defense, he can make the play, Trey.
All right, thanks very much. The next pick is in. Let's go to the commissioner.
With the 38th pick in the 2020 NFL Draft, the Carolina Panthers select Yetur Gross-Matos, defensive end, Penn State.
All right, Yetur Gross-Matos led the team at Penn State with 9.5 sacks and 15 tackles for loss. He was a first-team All-Big Ten selection by the coaches and the media. But the things that he has had to deal with through a very, very young start in his life is absolutely incredible. Size 17 shoe, by the way. by the age of 15, but you see those tattoos on his arm. When Yetur Gross-Matos was 2 years old, he and his father Michael were in a boating accident. Michael made sure Yetur was saved, and then he drowned. And then just a few years after that, on a Little League game in June of 2009, lightning struck and killed his brother Kalal. He was only 12 years old. And as you saw, he has tattoos on his chest and his left bicep to represent who he plays for his late father and his brother. In fact, Lewis, in one of his first games at Penn State, he got a half sack in the game and the skies opened up and he felt like that was his family watching him. What are they getting in Carolina in this player?
They're getting a strong physical individual that they're going to pair with Derek Brown, and now they're going to bring the pain to everybody in the NFC South. I can guarantee you that. He's a guy who really just plays heavy-handed at the point of attack, and he also has slippery pass rush ability. He's not the fastest, and he's not the most powerful, but he's a great combination of both. He utilizes good hand use. He utilizes understanding leverage. He utilizes understanding blocking schemes, and when he's able to get upfield and just take off, you can see he can produce those TFLs, those tackle for loss. I really like the pick, especially when you pair it with Derek Brown and you see what Matt Rule's trying to do, Booger.
Yeah, without a doubt, Lewis. Not only Derek Brown, but think about Brian Burns, who's going to play that right end position coming off the edge. A guy like Gross-Matos, you can put him in the left end. He has strong hands. He can play over the tight end. You pair him with Derek Brown and Brian Burns, you can see Matt Rule in Carolina starting to build a very formidable defensive line.
Listen, the rule restoration is underway in Carolina. Why did they take two defensive players in the first two picks, and why are the kids so happy? They allowed 29.4 points per game last year. That's the worst in team history. Everybody's happy now as they're going defensive side of the ball with the first couple of picks, getting Derek Brown in round one and Yetur Gross-Matos out of Penn State in the second round. Remember, they gave up 29.4 points per game last year, the worst in franchise history. The rule restoration has begun, trying to transform that defense. And then, of course, they signed Christian McCaffrey to that long-term deal and brought in Teddy Bridgewater. Let's see where they go here.
The Seattle Seahawks have traded the 64th pick to the Carolina Panthers. With the 64th pick in the 2020 NFL Draft, the Carolina Panthers select Jeremy Chin, defensive back, Southern Illinois.
Saluki, stand up. Carbondale, Illinois is on the board as Jeremy Chin is the highest Southern Illinois football player drafted since Terry Taylor went in the third round of the Seahawks in 1984. Mel, this was one of your gems in this draft.
Really like him, Trey. 7 career interceptions in high school, 13 career interceptions at Southern Illinois. I saw him against Western Illinois November 16th. He had 15 tackles in that game, 1.5 tackles for loss. 9 of those 15 tackles were solos, and he sealed the win when he recovered an onside kick at the end of that game. He's really a guy who can really make plays in the passing game with those interceptions and those ball skills. Great range. He's 6'3", 221 pounds. He had 243 career tackles, 13 interceptions, 31 passes defensed, and 6 forced fumbles. He played a little cornerback as well, so you know they love that versatility and the fact that he takes those good angles as a tackler. Ball skills are outstanding. You're talking about a team that has a history and a tradition. Carolina, you talk about having those kind of guys with that kind of versatility there. Jeremy Chin, it wouldn't shock me if they tried him at corner. If he settles in at safety, fine. He's a heck of a player from the 1AA level.
Yeah, real quickly, he was in the third round. Terry Taylor was actually a first-round pick of the Seahawks in 1984. But Jeremy Chin became so enamored with tackle football, he almost didn't even want to play flag football. He was one of those late bloomers, kind of like...
Thank you, Brad, and thank you to Disabled Sports USA for all you do for our nation's heroes. With the 113th pick in the 2020 NFL Draft, the Carolina Panthers select Troy Pride, defensive back, Notre Dame.
Troy Pride is off the board. Mel, a sprinter on the Irish track squad, ran a 4.440 at the combine, 4th fastest among corners.
Physically, athletically, Trey, he checks the boxes, boy. He's got the size you want, and he can run with anybody. He said 4.4. He probably would run 4.3 on a good day. Had his moments in coverage where he looked like maybe a second-round draft choice, but there were inconsistencies in terms of locating the ball. Looked like he was in a position to make the play. He didn't. I don't know if you can coach that up or it's instincts, but on talent, on recovery speed, on want to, he's got that. All the things you want in a corner physically, he has. Like I said, there was just that little thing missing where you thought he would be there, make the play, and it didn't happen. So if he can become, like I say, a little more consistent in terms of those one-on-one coverage skills, with the talent he possesses, he could be a factor in that defensive secondary, particularly when you talk about the amount of time you spend trying to find guys who can do what he can do physically with that 4.3, that 4.4 at the combine was something you could probably have improved on. So I think when you look at him, Trey, talented kid. Like I say, if he can level it off and be consistent more game to game, could be a real factor.
Well, Mel, if you look at the picks that Matt Rule has made, it's pretty clear he has a plan because it's 2 defensive linemen and 2 defensive backs. Panthers gave up 29.4 points per game last season, worst in franchise history. The Rule restoration plan is beginning on the defensive side of the ball. Hope to talk to Matt Rule a little later on today as the draft. Continuing through the draft, ladies and gentlemen, another XFL player is off the board. Kenny Robinson goes to Carolina. The safety at West Virginia had some academic fraud violations, so instead of waiting out and sitting a transfer, went and played for the St. Louis Battlehawks. Turned out to be a really good idea for him because it got him drafted to the restoration project that Matt Rule is doing to that Carolina defense.
Yeah, and Trey, this is a guy, when you watch him at West Virginia as well as in the XFL, you see somebody that can play in the middle of the field, that has outstanding range, and the production with those 7 interceptions at West Virginia shows up. I mean, he can go find the ball, he can play the ball. And in talking with Matt Rule about this selection, he said, look, we did our homework on him, not only at West Virginia, at the XFL, and said the coaches on the staff of his team in the XFL, they spoke so highly of him in every single area, so they felt very comfortable doing their homework with what they saw at West Virginia. And the first time we can say for the day, they did their homework on their XFL scouting as well.
So here he is, and you take a look at some of the highlights when he was seen most recently playing for the St. Louis Battlehawks in the XFL, and that's just great ball awareness right there. And basically, Daniel, what we're seeing in the XFL is what we saw in West Virginia.
Same guy, different uniform. But I think Matt Rule, look, he values speed and he values guys that can get their hands on the football. So it's an unusual evaluation for sure. But I thought at this point in the draft, it was good value.
Well, we can certainly say that Matt Rule and Marty Herney had a plan. That plan was fix the damn defense. They have drafted 5 players, all of them on the defensive side of the ball. Again, as we've said, coming off a season in which they gave up almost 30. It looks like it's going to be Justin Herbert. Hey, give it up for Matt Rule and the Panthers. They did it. All of their picks, defensive players. That's the first time ever in the common draft era with at least 7 players all on defense. And they close it out with defensive back Stanley Thomas Oliver III, Lewis.
I didn't have this one, but you know what? I'll tell you what they wind up doing here. They wind up getting a good athlete. You know, defensive back play is something in the NFL that you have to have plenty of. You have to have people who have good athletic ability, and this is what they're getting in this individual. A guy who can drive on the football, make plays at the catch point aggressively, and finish. And when you have someone like this who's sitting there in the 7th round, you have to go ahead and snatch him up.